Well, for more thoughts on today's cabinet from the opposition side of the House, I'm joined now by Liberal Bob Rae. There you see him. He joins us in Toronto. Bob Rae, nice to have you on the broadcast.
Thank you, Don. Nice to be here.
Your first headline reaction to the cabinet: bigger, more women, rookies, and some familiar faces.
Well, it's very big. I mean, 38 at a time of fiscal restraint. That's a lot of cars and drivers, Don. I would have thought a more focused, a bigger focus on the economy, a bigger focus on the challenge that we're facing economically would have made sense. We'll just have to see. It's obviously great to see some people getting a chance. It's a big day for them. But I think for Canadians, our focus is still very much on jobs and the economy, on the concern that we have, and on this very, very large number of people who will all be doing these various jobs, some of them sort of made up and some of them already there.
Jim Flaherty stays on as Minister of Finance. No surprise, we knew that was going to happen. Is that a good idea in the middle of the economic situation in which we find ourselves?
Well, you know, the trouble that I have with that is Mr. Flaherty, I think, really made a point of picking fights with the provinces, particularly with his home province of Ontario. I think the judgment call he made on cutting the GST twice has proven to be very, very short-sighted. You know, you have to be so fiscally prudent at this time when we know there's so many uncertainties out there in the world economy. We're very, very vulnerable now to the downturn, which is clearly taking place in the United States, clearly having a major impact in Canada. And I think we've been left awfully vulnerable by Mr. Flaherty. I'm disappointed, frankly, that he's still there because he's very combative, not with respect to us, but with respect to the provinces and other folks. And as I say, I think on the fiscal side of things, I think the government really has been quite irresponsible and put us in a very difficult spot as a country as we face this downturn.
Well, Mr. Flaherty said yesterday that equalization, as it's now been configured, and really that only happened in 2006, is unsustainable, and the provinces are going to continue to get, that do get equalization, will get more than they do now, but less than they would unless the formula is changed. He must change it. So, where do you think the official opposition, your party, will come down, particularly when Ontario seems about ready to qualify for equalization?
Well, every government, Don, has to face this challenge. It's a challenge of fairness. It's a challenge of transparency. And it's a challenge of not being arbitrary. And frankly, I wouldn't have said these were great areas of expertise of Mr. Harper and his cabinet. They're not a bunch that like to be transparent. They're not a bunch that like to do things particularly fairly, and they do things very arbitrarily. So, you know, it's going to be very interesting to see to what extent in the meeting that's upcoming, Mr. Harper is really able to work with folks and really able to deal with some of the challenges that we face. Ontario is facing a challenge, but there are many parts of the country that are facing a challenge. It's very difficult right now. It's not just big abstract places like, you know, we name the provinces, but it's people, it's families, it's businesses, it's jobs, it's what's really taking place right across the country, which, as we all know, is facing some real challenges.
Mr. Harper and the Conservatives have more seats than they did, but they are still in a minority position. So do you anticipate, or do you think that that is a pipe dream, that there may be negotiations between the government and the other parties as to some of the things that would be in the throne speech, which, when you think about it, is about 2.5 weeks away?
I don't know. Playing well with others is not Mr. Harper's strong suit. It'll be interesting to see if it becomes a strong suit. So far it hasn't been. The instability of the minority parliament that we had the last time really hasn't been changed, because fundamentally you have a government which has a very strong ideology, which has a very sort of narrow base and philosophically where it wants to go, and they don't seem to be prepared to give way a lot. And if they are prepared to give way and listen and learn and consult, I've seen no indication of consultation on the throne speech or anything else. So we'll just have to see. It's going to be an interesting challenge. But the key point is, we're certainly prepared to work. I think everyone else is prepared to work. The issue is whether or not Mr. Harper is really prepared to consult as we enter this very, very difficult period. And it's one that's going to require a great deal of effort on the part of parliamentarians facing the kind of crisis that we're facing. I think these times, in the economic sense, these times are really quite unprecedented. It's going to take a tremendous amount of effort with the provinces, with other parties to do what has to be done.
All right. Well, I'm almost out of time, but I want to get you on this point. After the last election, the Liberals were preoccupied with the leadership race, and now they're going to be preoccupied with the leadership race again. So can the Liberal opposition really provide the role that it should in Parliament when you and others, I take it you're going to be a candidate, have your eyes elsewhere?
Well, you'll be disappointed. I'm not going to announce on your program this afternoon, Don, but I can assure you the Liberal Party will be a very effective opposition. We see a government that's left us very vulnerable to the hurricane that's outside. They haven't been preparing. They haven't done what needed to be done. We need a government that's going to be active, that's going to be responding to the needs of Canadians, and we as Liberals are going to be putting forward some very clear ideas as to where this needs to be done, on pensions, on helping families, on responding to the industrial crisis in different parts of the country. You're going to find us a very effective opposition, regardless of the leadership race and everything else.
Time to say goodbye for now, though. Thank you, Bob Ray. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, Don. Good to talk to you.